Caitlin Clark officially done for the 2025 WNBA season, as she and the Fever announced on social media. The Fever and Clark saying that she tried to get back on the floor. It appears that she just ran out of time, not able to get enough confidence back in her body as the season wraps up and the playoffs are likely about to begin for Indiana.
The WNBA's Golden Goose is officially cooked for the season, but this was no accident. Caitlin Clark is out, and the vague updates and cautious optimism have been exposed as a facade. For months, fans were sold a lie, packing arenas and tuning in for a return that was never going to happen. Now, the devastating truth is out, and it points to a catastrophic failure. The league's biggest star wasn't just sidelined by bad luck, her body was dismantled in plain sight. So how did this happen? And more importantly, was she sacrificed for ticket sales and TV ratings? Before we expose the truth, drop a supportive message for Caitlin in the comments and let us know, can the Fever even survive without her?
Caitlin Clark out for the remainder of the 2025 season, something we all think we knew was coming after what Stephanie White said earlier today. We couldn't be too sure until we see it for ourselves. And with this announcement from the GOAT's mouth herself, Caitlin Clark won't be returning this season, nor if the Indiana Fever make the playoffs.
Her season didn't just end, it unraveled piece by piece, starting with a whisper of an injury that grew into a full-blown scream. The pattern is painfully obvious in hindsight, a domino effect of physical breakdowns. It began in May with quad tightness, a warning sign that was seemingly ignored as nothing more than preseason soreness. Just a few games into the season, that tightness became a full-blown strain in her left quad, forcing her to miss multiple games. By late June, her body was already compensating for the weakness, leading to a left groin strain. Then came the final blow on July 15th, a right groin injury that ended her campaign. And just to add insult to injury, a bone bruise in her left ankle surfaced during rehab. This wasn't a sophomore slump. It was a systematic breakdown, a body waving a white flag that nobody in power wanted to see.
I mean, it's a gut punch that basically encompasses an entire season of them. The Fever have lost so many players to injury, but obviously none bigger than Clark. And there was such a weight for this second season after her magnificent rookie season. And then, the anticipation of her possibly coming back, only for that not to happen, takes a lot of air out of the room, obviously takes a lot of energy out of the fans, and is a devastating blow for not just the Fever and the WNBA.
Each step of this collapse was masked by a single misleading phrase, day to day. That was the official line from the Indiana Fever, a carefully chosen term designed to keep hope alive and ticket windows open. It suggested she was just one practice away from returning, that any game could be the game. But behind the scenes, the story was much darker. Coach Stephanie White let slip a critical detail, admitting Clark hadn't been doing much contact work during a key road trip. This was a massive red flag. A player who can't handle contact isn't day-to-day. They're weeks away at best. But that truth wouldn't sell out arenas on a West Coast swing, would it? The phrase became a tool of commercial momentum, a convenient fiction to keep the business of Caitlin Clark booming.
As well, because Caitlin Clark fans, I want to say Fever fans, but at this point, so many of you, including myself, has lost faith in everybody involved in leadership and in management and coaching. We've just sort of, I got to tell you, I don't have any more real good things to say about the Fever organization as of now, because I will contend that they have known this was going to happen and they did not want to tell anybody.
While the team peddled cautious optimism to the public, whispers from inside the league painted a far grimmer picture. Sources close to other teams began talking. Rival coaches noted how limited she looked in warm-ups, far from the explosive player who had taken the league by storm. Veteran players on opposing benches reportedly remarked that she was playing on one leg. These weren't public statements, but the kind of locker room talk that travels fast. Pundits who had access to practices noted she was rarely involved in full-speed scrimmages. The evidence was mounting that the day-to-day label was not just optimistic, but intentionally deceptive. It seemed everyone knew she was seriously hurt except for the ticket-buying fans who were being strung along.
Clark, a two-time All-Star and the 2024 WNBA Rookie of the Year, has been sidelined suffering a right groin injury during the Fever's 87-77 win over the Connecticut Sun on July 15th. If you guys remember that game, Caitlin Clark put the team on her back in the winding minutes to give the Indiana Fever that lead. Clark also suffered a bone bruise at a later date during her recovery process.
This is where the science of injury becomes critical, because her body's collapse was terrifyingly predictable. When a player is protecting one injury, like a nagging quad strain, the body automatically shifts the load to other muscles to compensate. It's a classic case of overcompensation, and it's a ticking time bomb for elite athletes. Clark's groin strains were the inevitable explosion. Her body was trying to protect the weakened quad, and the immense stress found a new weak point in the surrounding muscles. The team's medical staff had to have known this was a significant risk, yet the optimistic updates continued, showing her jogging lightly or taking warm-up shots, feeding a false narrative that everything was fine, right up until the system finally cracked for good under the strain.
Caitlin has worked so hard throughout this time, doing everything possible to recover and return to the court, but ultimately, time is not on our side, said Indiana Fever COO and GM Amber Cox. While we will continue working with Caitlin and provide her with every resource we have available, there is not enough time left in our season for her to safely return, and her long-term health and well-being remains our top priority. We are looking forward to having her back at full strength to start the 2026 season. Clark appeared in 13 games during the regular season, averaging 16.5 points, 8.8 assists, and 5 rebounds per game, while helping lead the team to the 2025 WNBA Commissioner's Cup title.
That final crack came on July 15th. In the final minute of a game, a moment where she shouldn't have even been on the floor given her condition, Clark went down again. This time there was no hiding it. The carefully crafted image of a minor setback shattered in an instant, revealing months of partial rehabs and rushed comebacks. The ankle bruise that emerged later during her recovery was the grim epilogue to this story, a final sign that her body had been pushed into total failure. Fans who had held onto the day-to-day promise finally saw the truth. She had been playing a compromised season all along, and the bill had finally brutally come due. The season was over.
And this is what Caitlin wrote. I had hoped to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play this season. I spent hours in the gym every day with the singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling. I want to thank everyone who had my back through all the uncertainty. This has been incredibly frustrating, but even in the bad, there is good. The way fans continue to show up for me in the Fever brought me so much joy and important perspective. I'm so proud of how this team has only gotten stronger through the adversity this year. Now it's time to close out the season and claim our spot in the playoffs.
But no team press release could hit as hard as Caitlin Clark's own words. The silence from her camp was finally broken, and her raw honesty cut through all the corporate spin. She revealed she had been in the gym every single day, grinding through pain and grueling rehab in a desperate attempt to get back on the court for her team and the fans. When asked how she felt about the outcome, her answer was chilling. Disappointed isn't a big enough word. That single sentence exposed the massive gap between her private struggle and the sanitized version the public was being fed. She was giving everything she had, while the narrative around her made it seem like a minor inconvenience.
Well, it all started last year, in her rookie season, where she received 20% of all the flagrant fouls in the league. And most of them came from Angel Reese in the Chicago Sky. And these weren't basketball plays. They were not only fouling her, but they were getting up, laughing about it, laughing about Caitlin Clark getting assaulted. Any other work environment, people go to jail for what's going on.
And that's when the story takes a much darker turn, because her injuries weren't just happening in a vacuum. As her body was breaking down, fans and analysts began noticing something deeply disturbing. She was being physically targeted on the court, and nobody seemed to be doing anything about it. The question shifted from what happened to why. Was the relentless, uncalled physicality the root cause of her breakdown? A darker theory began to emerge. The league was allowing its biggest star to be bullied, and her injuries were the direct result of that negligence. This wasn't just bad luck, it was a failure of protection.
Urge DOJ and FTC to investigate WNBA's misleading practices. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. So we are here now. We are here now. And what's crazy about all of this is that, guys, this is I'm not going to come on here and say that they're going to lose. Because if there was an investigation going into this team, they're not going to lose this investigation. Oh, they're going to win. Whoever is representing Caitlyn is going to win.
The narrative of on-court bullying wasn't just about anonymous opponents. It centered on a pattern of behavior from specific veteran players. Every game seemed to feature a welcome to the league moment that felt more like a targeted assault. Rival enforcers appeared to take it upon themselves to deliver a message, using cheap shots and off-ball physicality to wear her down. Whether it was a hip check far from the play or an elbow during a screen, the contact was constant and intentional. It became clear that some players resented the spotlight she commanded and were determined to make her earn every point through a trial by fire. The league, however, did nothing to curb it, letting the aggressors set a dangerous tone.
And last year, I noticed how much it was just Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark was taking all the hits. Caitlin Clark was taking all the abuse. But this year they've added Sophie Cunningham. She gets more flagrant fouls on her than anybody in the league besides Caitlin Clark. And Aaliyah Boston, she's been taking hits as well. But the worst thing is the consistency. So they don't call flagrant fouls, or most of the time Caitlin Clark could be held for an entire game at a time. They don't call.
It wasn't just a theory. There were receipts, and they were undeniable. Social media was flooded with clips of Clark being shoved, hit, and manhandled with no whistle. Plays that would have been flagrant fouls on any other player were suddenly letting them play when it came to her. Fans became amateur referees, pausing their feeds and replaying these moments in slow motion, pointing out shoulders lowered into her chest and slaps across the arm that officials conveniently missed. It stopped being about basketball and became a debate about fairness and protection. Why was the league's most valuable asset being treated like a punching bag night after night? The visual evidence was damning.
They play against Breanna Stewart. She goes to the line 14 times. Asia Wilson goes to the line 13 times. And Aaliyah Boston can't play 20 minutes in a game without being on the bench in foul trouble. That's another problem that we're dealing with. But like I said, this year, it's not just Caitlin Clark. If you wear that Indiana Fever jersey, consider it done. The refs are not going to be fair, and they are going to cheat and do whatever it takes to do it.
The connection between the physical abuse and her body's breakdown was impossible to ignore. An athlete already dealing with lower body instability from quad and groin issues simply cannot withstand that level of unchecked punishment. Every hard foul, every shove in the back, every off-ball collision sent shockwaves through a body that was already on the brink of collapse. The lack of protection from the referees wasn't just unfair officiating. It created a dangerously permissive environment that directly contributed to her season-ending injuries. You don't need a conspiracy to see the pattern, but the outcome looks suspiciously intentional when you realize how much was at stake.
For the last 2 weeks, Stephanie White knew where this was going to end up. I would say for the last month or so, they kind of had a feeling where this was going to go. The main issue, another day-to-day injury that turns into a season ender. Another day-to-day injury that turns into a season ender. And if you don't call that a lack of transparency, I don't know what to call that.
As the outrage grew louder, the WNBA's response was deafening silence. There were no memos to officiating crews, no public statements addressing the concerns, and no fines handed out for the most egregious plays. The league that plastered Caitlin Clark's face on every advertisement and celebrated her record-breaking ratings seemed completely unwilling to protect her on the court. This inaction was interpreted by many as a tacit endorsement of the physicality. It sent a message to the rest of the league: do what you need to do. For a league desperate for mainstream legitimacy, turning a blind eye to the mistreatment of its biggest star felt like a catastrophic miscalculation, or worse, a deliberate choice.
They could have easily said 2 months, 1 to 2 months, be evaluated in the next 6 weeks. Instead, they played this day-to-day, game-time decision, probable, questionable nonsense for the last 8 weeks. And that is why fans are so pissed off for the most part. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I know if they were upfront and didn't BS us, people wouldn't be that angry at the organization, at least not as angry as they are now.
When you follow the money, the picture becomes even clearer and far more sinister. While Clark's status was being deliberately kept vague, ticket prices were soaring, arenas were selling out, and new upper deck sections were being opened to meet the unprecedented demand. The WNBA was experiencing a commercial boom entirely on her back. Critics argue that the league and the team downplayed her injuries and the referees swallowed their whistles for one simple reason: to keep the money train rolling. The perception was that full stadiums and national TV ratings were more important than one player's health, even if that player was their golden goose. The short-term profit was prioritized over long-term sustainability.
The Fever's still likely to make it into the playoffs, and I do continue to credit their resilience and what they've put up with and what they're capable of, and they will go down swinging when they do eventually go down, because I just don't think they have the talent to stay up at this point. But, I mean, Caitlin Clark said it, disappointed is not a big enough word. And I feel it's fair to say that, you know, for any right-minded person, that's the word on everybody's mind, getting the news that CC's season is indeed done.
The moment Clark was officially shut down for the season, the consequences were immediate and devastating for the entire league. The Caitlin Clark effect vanished overnight. Ticket sales for upcoming Fever road games plummeted, with resale markets crashing. National broadcast ratings for WNBA games that didn't feature her team saw a noticeable dip. The casual fans she had brought to the sport began to tune out. It was a brutal lesson in just how much the league's newfound success was tied to a single player. The WNBA had gambled that they could ride her popularity without protecting her, and now they were facing the fallout: a league-wide dip in interest and a brewing PR nightmare.
It's unfortunate that we were robbed of Caitlin Clark's sophomore season. She came out with a triple-double against the Chicago Sky. Triple-double first game of the season. Returns from injury, 32 points against the New York Liberty. The best 45 seconds in the WNBA this year. Pull up three, bang. Pull up three, bang. Pull up three, bang. 9 points in 40 seconds.
With Clark gone, the pressure has now fallen squarely on the shoulders of the Indiana Fever. The hype is gone, replaced by a gritty fight for survival. The team is clinging to the final playoff spot, with the Los Angeles Sparks breathing down their neck. It's now up to the remaining leaders to salvage the season. Kelsey Mitchell has taken over as the offensive engine, a veteran presence who can create a shot out of nothing, while two-time All-Star Aaliyah Boston has become the anchor in the paint, demanding double teams and battling for every rebound. They are playing not just for a playoff spot, but for their own identity beyond Clark's shadow.
This is on your head, Kathy Engelbert, and the rest of the WNBA Players Association executive leadership who failed to hold officials and players accountable for the barbaric style of play the Fever and Caitlin Clark have had to endure this year. Kathy, resign.
As soon as the season-ending announcement dropped, the blame game erupted. Fingers were pointed in every direction. Was it Coach Stephanie White's fault for not managing her minutes better? Did the medical staff clear her to return too soon, chasing short-term wins? Was the front office, led by GM Amber Cox, pressuring the entire organization to keep their cash cow on the floor, or at least keep up the appearance that she might be? And what about the league office itself, which failed to step in when the officiating became a clear and present danger? No one wanted to take responsibility, but the catastrophic outcome left a trail of accountability that led to every corner of the organization.